So we've spent a good amount of time talking about not only what LSU should do at quarterback for the remainder of this season, but obviously what the future of that position looks like both in 2026 and beyond. But for all the talk about the quarterbacks, which is very much warranted and is absolutely paramount and the most important conversation for the future of LSU football, with Garrett Nussmeier done with his eligibility in 2026 and beyond very much up in the air after Bryce Underwood's defection, I would argue that over the last 3 weeks of this regular season, offensive line is maybe the most critically important position group to evaluate. For the very obvious reason that we all know, which has been the weakest position group on the team this year by a mile. It's not even particularly close. And we saw a change in the Alabama game at halftime when Weston Davis, who started at right tackle all season, was benched for Ory Williams. And so what they do there this week in the remaining 3 games, I do think is going to be pretty fascinating. I asked Frank Wilson that on Monday at his Monday press conference, if they had a plan yet. Are they going to go back to Weston Davis, or is that Ory Williams' job again? This was Frank Wilson on Monday.
Who will be the starter? I'm not quite sure yet. One played quite a bit, and then meaning Weston, and then of course Ory Williams went in and he played quite a bit. They both did some really good things. They both did some things that still we need to build upon, but we haven't made a decision just yet on that.
So no decision yet on who is going to start there. For what it's worth, if you evaluate them both at this point, Weston Davis played in 8 games. Remember, he didn't play against Ole Miss. Jack Pyburn concussed him and broke his nose before the game. I laughed, not at Weston Davis being injured. Just the fact that could actually happen in pregame is wild. But Davis has played 8 games, 472 snaps at right tackle this year. Ory Williams has played in 2 games. He played 26 snaps at left tackle against Southeastern. Didn't play again until the Alabama game, where he played 32 snaps in the second half at right tackle on the road in Tuscaloosa against Alabama. So he's played 58 snaps on the season. So again, you've had 8 games and nearly 500 snaps to evaluate Weston Davis. Ory Williams had 2 games, Southeastern at left tackle and then a half against Bama at right tackle. Players can improve. It's one of the mantras that I sort of champion here all the time. Players and teams are allowed to improve as the season goes along. One of the things that I often bring up is Paul Mabenga from a year ago. Remember last year, very unenviable spot where Garrett Dellinger gets injured in that Texas A&M game and missed the remainder of the season. Well, when you look at Mabenga after, and it was bad, by the way, against Texas A&M when he went in, graded out at a 49. The next week, he's got his first start against Alabama. It was awful, a 43. Well, every week subsequent, he went from a 43, these are PFF grades, from a 43 to a 45 to a 54 to a 60. Like, every week, he got a little better. He wasn't great, but every week he kept improving the more comfortable he got. So I look at Weston Davis and I say, afford him the same opportunity to continue improving as the season goes along. The problem for Weston Davis is he's played in 8 games and he just hasn't improved this year. So I'm not sitting here trying to throw dirt on Weston Davis and say he'll never amount to anything. It's just he's had this season and it just has never looked good at any point. I mean, his PFF grades, Clemson 48, Tech 50, Florida 34, Southeastern 53, 44 against South Carolina, 51 against Vanderbilt, 48 against A&M, 41 against Bama. It's never gotten better. Weston Davis has been penalized 8 times this year. The next closest offensive lineman is Carius Curne with 3. And Curne's been a part-time player. Like, of your starters, no one has more than 2 penalties. Davis has 8. And I don't mean to single him out because this unit as a whole has been bad. I'm only talking about right tackle because the coaches made the decision to bench him in the second half for Ory Williams. And I think they have to make a decision here if they go back to Davis, who has played in 8 games, or if they give someone else a shot over these final 3 to evaluate them. And I kind of look at it and say, that's where they need to be. Look, not to pile on, but we asked Todd McClure, who was a 2-time first-team All-American during his time at LSU. He's in the Atlanta Falcons Ring of Honor, man. Dude played 14 NFL seasons. Incredible offensive lineman. And Todd's die-hard purple and gold through and through. But we had Todd here a few weeks ago. We were talking about the offensive line, and I asked him about Davis, and he tried to handle it with kid gloves, but honesty is honesty.
Weston Davis is really struggling. I'm watching this last game. Of course, he was going against Stewart, who was an absolute stud, and he was reactive instead of being proactive. And what I mean by that is he was waiting on Stewart or letting him get into him before he did anything with his hands. And some of the best tackles I played with that were tall, long guys, they would do things with their hands to show that defensive end. They would put a hand out there and let him swat at it, and then they would pull it back and then get in his chest, So it would be little things working on his punch, his eyes. I think his eyes are all wrong, the target he's looking at, because you watch him on his pass set and he's oversetting guys, or he's not setting far enough, and I think that's something that he has to improve on, and I think he will.
It's not all of those things that Todd said there are all correctable. It's not the lack of athleticism. I mean, Weston Davis was a guy that everybody in the country wanted. I mean, he's 6'6", 320 pounds. I mean, he was a 5-star recruit. He was the number 4 offensive tackle in the country from on 3 coming out. I mean, everybody wanted him. So he was an elite level basketball player. Great feet, good athleticism. I mean, it's not that. So the physical ability is there. He's got to develop, but we've seen it for 8 games, and it's almost like it's time to see someone else. And this is what I'm talking about, because you've now got this sample size, and this is a bigger picture question about how to build a roster. You now have this growing sample size of a lot of offensive linemen who played a lot of football for you. Remember, the only guy you're losing this year is Josh Thompson, who's out of eligibility. Braylon Moore could go pro, but he could come back. And I think that is the most critical player that you need to come back on your entire offense. Of the guys that could go pro, is Braylon Moore. Like, you've got to get Braylon Moore back at center to be just the literal center and the centerpiece of that offensive line, so you could build everything around him, because he has been your best offensive lineman this year by a mile. But other than that, like, DJ Chester's played a ton of football. Paul Mabenga's played a ton of football. Tyree Adams has been your starting left tackle this year. We talked about Davis, Cohen Eccles, Carius Curne, now Ory Williams, not even to mention Solomon Thomas, a 5-star who hasn't been able to play for you this year. But all that to say, you have, even not including Braylon Moore, Chester, Mabenga, Adams, Davis, Eccles, Curne, Williams. That's 7 guys, and then you throw Solomon Thomas on top of it. 8 guys that you feel really good about their ability, and 7 of those 8 have played, or 6 of the 8 have played a ton of football. That's before we talk about potentially Braylon Moore coming back. So I think you look at next season and you go, okay, did you go through this really challenging stretch this year with a very bad offensive line, and you're going to come through it better because you got these guys experience? Or do you look and say, we gave these guys all this experience, we don't know that the ceiling is very high for them, so we need to go into the portal and get guys who are plug-and-play ready-made? Like, go back to 2022 when Brian Kelly made the decision to start Will Campbell and Emory Jones as true freshmen. They were going to live with freshman mistakes because they knew the ceiling was so high with those guys. And as the season went along, those guys got really good. By the end of 22, they were a really good offensive line. In 23, they were outstanding in pass protection, certainly, and the way that offense functioned. They were the number 1 offense in the country. So I look at it as the central decision that this LSU coaching staff, front office, and the next coach is going to have to make. Are they riding with these guys, these offensive linemen, next year because of all of the growth and development experience they've gotten this year, the investment they made, the growing pains? Or do they look and evaluate and say, you know what, we played these guys and we just missed, and we got to go get dudes out of the portal that are plug-and-play ready-made? But I think you can use these next 3 games to evaluate guys in this group. Carius Curne at left tackle, Ory Williams at right tackle, maybe paramount among them. Look, you're going to move into 2026 with this group and hoping for improvement, or you're going to go into the portal and add proven power for talent on the offensive line. And we'll see what ultimately they decide to do, probably a blend of both. But I would love to see Carius Curne, Ory Williams over these next 3 weeks get a ton of playing time to see if those are cornerstones that you think you could build around in 2026 and beyond. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.